Good afternoon. My name is Eric Johansson. I'm the Manager of Strategic Business Planning here. Before I begin, I just wanted to recognize the efforts of SEPTA's communications team that put all of this stuff together in like 2 weeks, which was absolutely amazing. And also the SEPTA core team. There's a representative from every SEPTA division here today. We've established a core team to help implement this plan, and every single department has played a role in putting together not only the framework but also the metrics we're going to present to you today. So a lot of support. This plan is a 5-year plan. It's sort of, I think of this as a corporate roadmap. SEPTA has capital plans, we have operating plans, we have service plans, but we need a roadmap to put it all together. And so what we've done over the last several months is we've met with our senior management, and now we've started meeting with our stakeholders and our employees to start to develop that roadmap and start to put together the sort of overarching themes and the pieces that make all of our different planning efforts work. And that's what we're doing today. Today's the kickoff of the public outreach component of that. And I want to emphasize that this is a draft document. The feedback that we get today, the feedback that we get over the next month through the public comment period, which is going to extend till June 20th, will absolutely be considered in the document. Very much wanted to emphasize that because this sort of planning document really can be iterative and it really can be evolutionary, and we hope to make it as useful as it can possibly be to all of our stakeholders. Plan is anticipated to go to our July board for adoption, and then it's a 5-year plan, and we'll be implementing the plan over the course of that time. So what we've tried to do with our strategic plan for this 5-year period is distill it down to the highest level possible set of themes so that everyone can sort of understand and embrace the concepts that are in it. And what we've come up with are 3 key themes for this year's plan. The first is innovation. Now, a lot of people think of innovation in terms of technological innovation, and that's absolutely part of this. But we're really talking about innovation more from sort of a private sector mindset point of view and embracing a process of continual improvement. So as technologies emerge, but as business practices also emerge, we're taking advantage of them to make ourselves more efficient. The second one is integration. This one is looking at SEPTA's integration in a couple different ways, both across our transit modes, primarily through the implementation of new payment technologies, but also connecting across other travel modes. So finding ways to better integrate with bicycles and pedestrians, for example. We have a comprehensive planning effort on that front going on. And also with parking expansion. We've done some benchmarking analysis to suggest that even though our regional rail ridership is growing, there's probably still some latent demand out there simply because so many of our parking lots are full by 7:30 a.m. So looking at that as well. And then finally, renewal. This is sort of a category unto itself for the next 5 years because, as probably many of you know, we have a $5 billion backlog of state of good repair needs, and we need to catch up on that. And so we have a whole capital investment program called Catching Up that's a central tenet of this plan. Brief overview of what our 5-year plan is for SEPTA and also what it isn't. 5-year plan establishes vision, mission, and core values for the authority. Central tenets for planning that we all agree on across the authority. Establishes a set of objectives to guide organizational planning. And for the first time in a really concerted and we think private sector way, puts together a set of key performance indicators, metrics that we're going to be using both for planning purposes but also for transparency and accountability. And we think those metrics have been thoughtful enough that they're going to be really useful for our stakeholders who look at these and can incorporate them into their own planning efforts. What the plan is not is a tactical set of initiatives that are very specific and very sort of myopic in their approach. We're going to allow each of the divisions and the departments to do their own planning within the corporate framework. So that's why we have established this core team that's here today to sort of take this plan framework and run with it. So what I'm going to do through this presentation is I'm going to go through each of those categories, explain what our draft plan includes, and then sort of wrap it up so that we can get your feedback on it. So So SEPTA's vision. Vision statement is what we want to be by the end of this 5-year planning period. So our vision statement is to be the region's preferred alternative for transportation and to earn that choice through connecting the region for integrated mobility, sustaining our environment and preserving our system for future generations, committing to continuous improvement and innovation, and providing excellent service by a team of dedicated employees. So we see this as an aspirational statement. If we're successful in the 5-year plan, this is what we've achieved. Our mission statement is more functional. This is what we do as an authority. And that is that we're dedicated to delivering safe, reliable, sustainable, accessible, and customer-focused public transit services, contributing to the region's economic vitality, sustainability, and enhanced quality of life. One thing I want to point out about this mission statement is that it's very intentionally internally focused with the first 5 adjectives and also externally focused with talking about the region's economic vitality, sustainability, enhanced quality of life. This is sort of a recognition of the fact that SEPTA is more than just providing services. We provide services that contribute to the region. And then a set of core values. What do we believe? And as an organization, individuals, we value safe, reliable, sustainable, accessible, and customer-focused, those same 5 from the mission statement. But we also wanted to use this to talk about our people and our culture and talk about organizational development. So for people, we value diversity, integrity, honesty, responsibility, and creativity. And for our corporate culture, teamwork, constructive, respectful, engaging, and inclusive. So we also have what we're calling our objectives or planning concepts. These are 8 sort of overarching objectives that we're going to then give to each of our divisions to do their own planning. We've made a couple tweaks from the last 5-year plan, which are worth noting. The first one is we've added one. There used to be 7. We now have an 8th, which is business partnerships. This is in recognition of the fact that one of the key driving forces of this year's plan is to operate more like a business and find those opportunities for investment. Another one is the phrase, the customer experience. This is a recognition of the success that we've had over the past 5 years in promoting customer service as a corporate tenet. We think we've evolved beyond customer service, where we can now get into thinking more along the lines of how does the customer actually interact with our system? And the customer interacts with our system, as we now realize, from the beginning of the time they get up in the morning and check their phone to see if the train is on time to when they get home at night. It's no longer just about what's happening on the vehicles and at the stations. It's about the whole experience. So we use those 8 objectives for corporate planning. But the way this plan is structured is around what we're calling a balanced scorecard of key performance initiatives. This is where we think this plan actually breaks a lot of new ground. And because what it does is it takes performance measurement and quantifying metrics to a new level for SEPTA. And it takes it to a new level in a way that's going to be publicly reported on a regular basis. The categories that we're going to be looking at are business process, the customer experience, financial efficiency, infrastructure state of good repair and reliability, safety and security, and employee growth. A typical business would look at least 4 of those: business process, customer experience, financial efficiency, and employee growth. Because of SEPTA's unique challenges and because of the key focus on state of good repair through catching up and safety and security, which we'll talk about, we decided to add 2 more. So our balanced scorecard has 6 categories. So I'm going to go through each of these fairly briefly just to give you an overview of what we're talking about. So for each of the 6, we have a specific goal statement. And for business process, it's to implement best management practices that ensure SEPTA remains a sustainable, high-performance, outcome-driven agency. Strategies towards that are a lot of what I just talked about, adopting a business-oriented approach to performance management, or what I'm calling SEPTA-STAT. City of Philadelphia has been very successful in doing what they call Philly-STAT with performance management monthly meetings with each of their departments, and we think that we can adopt that here. There's also some IT upgrades and streamlined procurement practices that we can talk about, internally focused improvements to productivity, and then some sustainability program measures that we'll be adopting. SEPTA is one of a half dozen transit agencies that has received an ISO 14001 Environmental and Sustainability Management System certification at one of its shops, looking to expand the reach of that in some of the programs such as waste and recycling. Key performance measures, measuring our carbon footprint, shooting for a 10% reduction by 2019, a waste diversion rate of about 20%. Vehicles out of service due to no stock. This is currently a bus-only measure of 12.5 vehicles. We're looking to add rail vehicles and other fleet vehicles to this measure. A new internal satisfaction survey where we're really measuring productivity based on what our internal customers are telling us. This example is from the IT department, which has a help desk survey after every time that they provide a service for another department, extending that to other parts of our business services division. And then finally, procurement turnaround time. This is a new publicly reported measure for us at Well. We've grouped these into 3 different categories based on the size of the procurement, really looking at turning around those requisitions as fast and as efficiently as possible. Number 2, the customer experience. Goal statement is to provide best-in-class transportation services that meet or exceed customer expectations. Here, for this first bullet point, we're going to be refreshing our customer satisfaction survey. A lot has changed in the customer satisfaction world since that survey was first created. We're going to be looking more at things like social media, really refining the extent to which we understand what our customers are telling us. We're also going to be developing new programs for internal customer satisfaction, building a customer service culture, upgrading communications platforms, including the website, and nurturing stakeholder relationships and refreshing SEPTA's brand. I failed to mention one of the things that our communications staff has done is develop this great brand, which you're seeing here from PowerPoint presentation standpoint, but it's going to start to be the look and feel of all of our corporate documents. So key performance indicators here. This is a big one, on-time performance. We're going to be measuring this on a modal basis. We have a goal established for 2019 for each of the SEPTA modes, including paratransit for city and suburban. We're going to be measuring a commendations to complaints ratio. Customer service call center records every single time a passenger contacts SEPTA and records it as either a commendation, an employee did something well, a complaint, employee may not have done something well, or an other. We're going to be measuring commendations to complaints as a ratio. Customer satisfaction, I talked about the refresh survey that we're going to be doing, so that's still TBD. We're going to establish a baseline with that refreshed survey. A couple new publicly reported indicators. As I mentioned, we're going to be focusing a lot more on SEPTA's use of social media over this 5-year plan. And we've established a metric which we're calling the communication activity metric, communication activity index, which is a composite measure of tweets and app downloads and Facebook likes and other sorts of fun things that we use for both social purposes, but also really for control center spitting out service-related information. And uptime of mission-critical IT systems, this was actually a late addition to the plan. We had some challenges with our website and real-time feed this winter with the winter weather, which taught us a lot about the redundancy and the need for redundancy in our IT systems. And so a new metric that we're going to be tracking is the uptime of those systems with a goal of 99.9% reliable. I've been told by our IT department that it's absolutely impossible to achieve 100%. So we're going to go for 99.99. And as you can see, both the website and real time are well above 99%. The problem is that they went down when people really needed them. So we're going to be using this as a KPI as well. Number 3, financial efficiency, to responsibly manage resources in a way that provides requisite budget stability to grow the system. That's a carefully worded goal statement, which says that SEPTA lives within its means and we live within our budget. But now that we have Act 89, we can start to look at ways of improving the customer experience and increasing the capacity of the system while still living within our means. So through this goal, we're going to be looking at growing new ridership markets, particularly through new payment technologies. Ensuring long-term stability of the operating budget, looking at ways of increasing non-fare-based revenue. looking at the cost effectiveness, a lot of those productivity measures we talked about earlier and their impact on the operating budget. And also other ways of leveraging things like energy storage, which is an emerging cost effectiveness tool for us, which on the Market Frankfurt line is now both reducing energy consumption and generating new revenue. So as things emerge like that over the 5 years, really taking a hard look at them. 2 measures for financial efficiency. We're going to be measuring unlinked passenger trips per capita. We're going to do this on a per capita basis because we understand that as the region grows, our ridership may also grow. We want to grow faster than what the region's growing. And so instead of just simply reporting through this plan an aggregate passenger trips metric, we're going to report it on a per capita basis with a 5% goal. The other measure we're going to be reporting, and this is the first time we've reported a metric like this as well, is a measure of our operating expenses per trip against 2 different benchmarks. The industry, which puts out operating expenses per trip through the National Transit Database, that's reported on a 1-year lag, which is why that top red line stops at 2012. And also the Consumer Price Index for the Philadelphia region. This is the first time, at least in this format, that we've shown our operating expenses per trip against an inflationary index. And so we tracked this back to 2005, and as it turns out, our expenses per trip have very closely mirrored inflation for the Philadelphia region, which means that we've been doing a pretty good job at controlling our expenses. Goal 4 is a goal that's been talked about a lot recently, state of good repair and reliability through the Catching Up program. We'll be reducing SEPTA's backlog of capital repair needs in a way that improves safety, reliability, and the customer experience. So basically this goal is about implementing Catching Up. But it's also about adopting a long-range plan for capacity enhancements and service expansion. Now that we have fiscal stability through Act 89, we're able to look a little bit more long-term at things like that. Looking at strategic partnerships and looking at ways to link capital investments to systems modernization. Primarily as we replace new vehicles, looking at things like bi-level rail cars and articulated trolleys for West Philadelphia. Also prioritizing accessibility in station rehabilitation projects. First time the city trolleys will be ADA accessible once we have them in our fleet. And high-level platforms at places like Levittown, which was announced last week. Key measures for state of good repair and reliability. This is mean distance between failures. It's a measure of mechanical reliability on our vehicles. We measure this on a modal basis, and what this reflects is our best estimate of the plans to replace our vehicles for the next 5 years and what we think we can achieve in terms of keeping those vehicles reliable. So for instance, we plan to replace many buses and trolley buses. We think we can achieve a fairly dramatic improvement in mean distance between failures. We're going to be replacing the city trolleys, and so you see an increase there as well. We won't be replacing the Broad Street line cars, so we're going to try to keep the mean distance between failures fairly static there. That's the thought process within those, and I'd be happy to provide more detail. But each one of those was thought pretty carefully. We're going to be measuring a target of output of projects, how fast we turn these things around based on achievement of major project milestones within 90 days. Goal of 80%. We've been achieving that back since 2010, measured on a biannual basis. And then this last measure is very important. The Federal Transit Administration, through the most recent federal transportation reauthorization legislation, has a requirement to promulgate new standards for quantifying asset condition. They have yet to do so. And so we didn't feel it prudent to report our own estimates of asset condition until those industry standard measures come out. So there will be an asset condition measure that will be sort of industry standard across all agencies, but it is yet to be reported. So it's a placeholder. Number 5, safety and security. This is a big emphasis for this year's plan, to develop a safety-first culture that results in fewer customer and employee incidents. We actually have our 2nd annual Passenger Safety Day tomorrow, where we have over 400 SEPTA employees canvassing the entire region, every station, handing out leaflets and flyers about passenger safety awareness. This has been a huge push over the last couple years. Wanted to make the point, though, that we have both internal and external customer safety and security initiatives. External, it's a lot about awareness. Internal, it's also about awareness, but it's also about ensuring that our employees have a safe workforce, a safe workplace. One other thing that I'll note is during this 5-year period, we'll have fully implemented positive train control. SEPTA is one of the only properties in the entire country that is looking like we could potentially meet our federally mandated deadline for positive train control. So that'll be a big upgrade for passenger safety on the railroad. We have 6 measures for safety and security. 3 are sort of passenger-focused, external, and 3 are internal. So for the external metrics, we're measuring vehicular accidents, passenger accidents, and station accidents based on a normalized measure of miles and trips taken. So vehicular accidents is when a bus runs into something. Station accident is a trip and fall, things like that. These are generated by our operating divisions and our claims database. On the employee side, we have lost time and non-lost time. So an employee lost time injury is when the employee gets injured and has to miss work. A non-lost time is when they get injured and they don't miss work. And then another late addition to this plan, which we think is important to publicly report, is operator assaults, which has become a big point of focus for SEPTA in the last couple of years. We've experienced a dramatic reduction in operator assaults, but I think we still can all agree that 65 is too many. We're not putting a number to operator assaults for now, but we would like to see that number continue to come down. And finally, employee growth, to attract, develop, and retain a diverse, healthy, and versatile workforce. This is a big focus for SEPTA in this 5-year plan, too, because of a looming workforce transition associated with retirements, but also an opportunity that we see as more and more people recognize the value and importance of SEPTA as a community asset, that SEPTA could actually be an employer of choice. Really looking to take advantage of that trend. So looking at targeted employee recruitment efforts, really establishing diversity, safety, and customer service as underlying principles for employee growth, then implementing a comprehensive suite of talent management. So when we recruit employees, how are we developing them? And then really making sure that employees remain healthy through employee wellness programs and developing a culture of volunteerism so that we continue to give back to the community. 2 key performance indicators for employee growth. The first one is really focused on the succession planning component of this. Significant number of SEPTA employees are eligible to retire in the next 5 years. We've developed an Advancing Internal Management, or AIM, succession planning program to really focus on key strategic positions that we need to make sure we're ready to fill when those employees retire. Also, we have a new metric for ongoing efforts to recruit and develop women and minorities for key positions. We're tracking this for both management and professional ranks. And what we're showing here is the trend from 2008 to 2013 for both women and minorities in each of these categories, and then showing an incremental acceleration of hiring in those categories between 2013 and 2019. So we see this as sort of a key focus that's going to impact the way that we look at the turnover and the opportunities that exist with the turnover that we're about to experience and we're already experiencing. So as far as implementation strategy following the adoption of the plan, we're going to continue to have staff meetings and targeted briefings. We've got a core team, this core team of representatives from each of our divisions, which are going to be helping to take these planning concepts and really to implement them at the divisional level. We have a public engagement piece that's really starting today, and we're going to be continuing through the public comment period, which goes through June 20th. We have a new email address, strategicplan@septa.org, for people to submit comments. We're also going to be developing, again with our awesome communications team, a new strategic plan microsite, which is where this dashboard will be put up and updated on a regular basis. And I just wanted to give an example of what that's going to look like. This is a modal on-time performance dashboard. So what we're envisioning is that each of the tabs in this new microsite will have something like this for each of our performance metrics. Something that's pretty visual, easy to understand, where we can update on a regular basis and provide customers with sort of transparency and accountability in how we're doing in adopting this plan. So again, this is on-time performance, but we can replicate this for most, if not all, of the other metrics. So with that,